she would tell me, oh, I got an email from Jason. He's doing this, he's doing that. I didn't see any harm in it. A couple months later, she was sitting at the computer, and all of a sudden I noticed she had suddenly shut down the computer completely and got up and ran into her bedroom and slammed the bedroom door shut. And I said, Brandy, what is wrong? She started to cry, and she said, I got an email from Jason. It was a picture of him naked, masturbating. And he said he had sent it to her because he wanted her to see that he was thinking of her. I went back and forth with, should I call the police? They're going to think I'm a bad parent because I allowed her to talk to this person. I struggled with this, and I finally told myself, I can't call the police. All I can do is make sure I keep her far away from him.
Picture this. You're a parent of a 8-year-old daughter who is a child actress. And like any actor, actress, she receives an email from one of her production assistants. Your 8-year-old daughter receives an email from one of her production assistants. You read that email and you decide this is just TV show stuff. So you let it continue. She emails him, he returns, it's fine. You let this go on for 2 months. And then you find out that your daughter has been emailing a pedophile. How do you know this? You find out because he sent the evidence via video right to your daughter, who saw it. It actually wasn't, it was a video. She saw it, or it was a picture. She saw the picture of him masturbating and she ran. You saw it. And what did you do once you found out? You did nothing. Now, some may say, how could she have known? She's an actress. Her daughter's an actress. People get emails, right? How could she have known? Could there have been red flags? Well, red flag number one is any 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old, even at that, who's getting an email, really from anyone, I would say outside of their school, but probably even a school email, the parent should be in the loop. Especially if it's an 8-year-old getting emails from a grown adult. That's a red flag. But like typical in these kind of situations, unfortunately for the victim, which is the minor here, they were unprotected by the adults. There were red flags, and there were more than one red flag. One thing I found interesting about the mom is nowhere in the show, nowhere in the interview, did she ever say that she had a conversation with her daughter about what she's seen on that video, about how it affected her. Now, does that mean she didn't have this conversation? Sure, maybe she did, but wouldn't that be something that you would want the world to know, that you had some kind of conversation with your daughter about why you chose not to bring this up to the police? Why you felt like bringing that up to the police would make you look bad instead of you caring about how I, as the daughter, the 8-year-old, felt. Sure. Did you do the right thing by making sure she never had any other communication with this guy? Sure. But that wasn't the end. She was supposed to do more. And it really started with stopping those emails from ever happening. Just got to be more aware as a parent. Because ultimately, as a parent, what are you there for? Are you only there to provide food and shelter? Or are you there to provide wisdom? Are you there to protect? Or are you going to leave that to the the schools? Because what also shows in this documentary is that another parent got involved with a similar situation. And you see later on in this video, that parent reacted a whole lot differently than this parent and a couple other parents that were in this documentary. Parenting does matter. Believe it or not, it's not the all end all be all, but it matters, especially in situations like this.
You hear scuttlebutt about the business and when you got to watch your kids and this and that. So I was very attentive. All the other parents would be seen and not heard, which I would never interrupt anything, but very rarely sat in the green room. I'd always be offset somewhere where I could always keep my eyes on Drake. And unfortunately, I started to see Brian start to just hang around Drake too much. And it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian, and just touch Drake. You know, do things that, wait a second, what are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people.
Drake Bell was probably the most popular, or one of the most popular victims of this show, Quiet on Set. And his dad was made a lot of noise, I guess, on social media because he was caught. He was crying. He was seen crying, and you could tell he was emotional. And I actually saw that he was getting a lot of people was supporting him and saying he did everything right. But if you really look closely, the predators, I would call them, you can watch the show to get their names. The predators were doing all this in plain sight for the most part. They were doing this on the cast of the show, in the production rooms. They were doing this in front of the parents. And there was a black parent who decided to speak out, who no longer was being able, they didn't renew her son. In the first episode, they talked about that. So sure, parents may have been scared to speak out, but are you going to put that over your daughter, your son? So Drake Bell's dad, I can see why he's emotional, because you dropped the ball there. There's no other way to put it.
Maybe walk over to Drake and be feeding him some lines or whatever, and put his arm around his waist, put his hand up on his shoulder and kind of running down his arm and things like that. And this would happen routinely.
There's no other way to put it. What do you think their mindset is for these predators to be doing this in the scope of you, as a parent? They're doing this not just in front of you as parents, they're doing this in front of parents of other people too. There's other adults that work there, women as well, that talked about how they were also aware of certain things. A lot of this is on adults when it comes to these kids being victims. Adults need to say, hey, even though I'm getting a check cut, this check is not worth this kid or these kids. um, I just don't get why Drake Bell, there's a scene where Drake Bell's dad, Drake Bell asked his dad to have a party at one of the Predators' houses. And even though Drake Bell's dad says that he was on the fence of this, he saw signs of something being wrong. To cut the scene, and he's saying, we closed the door to go into his house, the Predator's house. Like, it's like they just couldn't say no. It's like why do parents find it so hard to say no to their kids? I would be able to sleep better at night as a parent knowing that I protected my kid rather than, oh my God, I'm fearful of them hating me.
At Strawberry Festival for Drake and his band, and who pops up? Brian Peck. Who pops up? Brian's friends, and they're following Drake all through the Strawberry Festival. And I'm just going, what is this?
It was my first band that I'd ever played with. I was brand new. It was just exciting to be playing live. It was just like my friends were coming to my shows. Like, cool.
And then there was a birthday party for Drake. And Brian wanted to have it in his house. And I said, whoa, Brian, I don't want Drake having his birthday party at your house.
It was my 15th birthday. Brian suggested, oh, hey, you can perform and let everybody can come. I lived in Orange County, which is an hour away, and everyone I wanted to come to my birthday was who I worked with on the show. And so it made it easy. It just didn't seem like something that was that out of the ordinary.
Then after I got his presents out of the car, I looked in the bag, and I saw these birthday cards from Brian's friends that were at the party, and they were really inappropriate. They just had adult things in them, adult descriptions, and I thought, whoa, this is... And then I said, Drake, what is this? He goes, I don't know, I didn't even know I had those.
Sometimes, and I know I'm not a parent, so let me be upfront for I know people will be quick to say, hey, you're not a parent, how can you judge? But look, I'm almost 33 years old. It's probably best that I'm not a parent right now, that I wasn't a parent and earlier in my life, because maybe I wouldn't look at things the same way as I do today. But as an adult, as a near 33-year-old, I mean, you got to be an adult as a parent. And saying no is about being an adult. Not being fearful of your kids hating you when you know you're in the right is about being adults. It's about making adult decisions. And people who do things like that, I start to wonder, that probably has shown up a lot in his life when it comes to Drake Bell's dad. But that's a whole nother issue. Look, at the end of the day, I feel like Drake Bell's dad was emotional, not just because of what happened to his son and how sad that is that his son had to go through that, but that he knew. He felt something. He knew things weren't right. And he was scared to be loud enough. He was scared to say no. And he even said it. His life changed forever. Because how do you not wake up every day and think about your son, think about that, and then think about how you could have been there to stop that? Sad, but that's life. You live and you learn. And unfortunately, there's victims in learning, and I'm sure Drake Bell is struggling, and all the victims are struggling as well. But it also, one thing is just because, your kid may be a star, that doesn't make him an adult. He's still a kid. And if you watch the movie King Richard, man, I would watch that movie again if I was anybody who has not watched it in a while, because if you watch this show and then you watch that, you can't tell me that something like that goes down in a household like that, and nobody knows anything, or, no, like King Richard would be, causing a big scene, and you can say, hey, that means his kid, they would have never made it. No, I don't think it would have went down like that. There's, at the end of the day, somebody would have found out what was going on way before everybody ended up finding out what was going on. What was going on is that there was a lot of decisions being made about money. And a lot of times that's the issue in life.
Be around. I think Brian got a sense that my dad was on watch, and so he started to really drive a wedge between my dad and me. He started talking about how my dad's stealing my money. Nobody likes that my dad's on set. He's a real problem. So he just started making me believe that he was horrible for my career. I wasn't going to be able to move forward with him in it. And coming from someone like Brian, I was believing it because he's been in this business for so long. He must know more than us. Also because I was spending so much time more so around him than I was really my dad.
I think Drake was so distraught over everything that he avoided me, which is understandable. He was under a lot of, I don't want my dad to be my manager, I feel guilty about that.
And my mom and my dad had a very tumultuous relationship. They did not get along, and I think Brian saw that. So Brian really started getting into my mom's mind and telling her the same things he was telling me.
He found an attorney to find out about Drake's financial situation.
There was never any mishandling of any funds, but it was like an army against my dad.
After that, Drake had stayed with his mom for about a week, and then I got a phone call from his mom saying Drake doesn't want you to be his manager anymore.
And my dad was like, is this what you want to do?
At that time, I said, I want what my son wants. It's killing me. It's hurting me. It's breaking my heart. I do what Drake wants. So I said, okay.
Our relationship was just completely eviscerated. I think he felt like he was going through the divorce with my mom all over again and fighting for me again. It was just like he did when I was 5 years old.
Before we get off the topic of Drake Bell and his dad, divorce actually was a topic when it came to Drake Bell's dad and Drake Bell and his mom. So I have to ask this question. I know a lot of people will kind of skip past that part, but I think that's a big topic because the question is, did divorce impact Drake Bell? It's clear to me that the mom also was, the dad says he was aware, but he didn't do anything. The mom seemed to have been unaware. I don't think she was even in the documentary. But sometimes this happens with divorce where the kid makes the decision to stay with the more lenient parent, right? The easier to live with parent, the parent with less rules and regulations, the parent with less responsibilities, the parent that lets you do more. And in this situation, they had already divorced, and then Drake Bell let the predator talk him into getting away from his dad and legally being able to get away from his dad and staying with his mom, where she was totally unaware of the predator and what his intentions were, to the point where she's treating Drake like a normal kid who's just, actually, I take that back. I have no clue what his mom was thinking. Parents just have to be parents. Being a parent is not saying, oh, let me pawn you off to this other adult and just assume you're okay. Because that's not right. Because she was letting him stay the night. And the excuses were, I'm working late, or I worked late, the job is over here, they stayed an hour away. But how, as a parent, do you let that be the excuse of why your son, your daughter, whoever, is staying at this other grown adult's house that I assume she had never visited, didn't know who stayed in the house with them, or any of that? But even if you've been over there 5 times, your kid should always leave with you. The lack of awareness is ridiculous. It's pretty sad. And I wonder how Drake Bell feels about that when it comes to how he views it. Now, he may view it as, no, I made those decisions. I put the pressure on my mom and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I hope he doesn't think like that, because he's a victim. The beauty of being a kid is you're a kid and you're not responsible for a lot of the things that you do. Sure, you shouldn't murder somebody. But odds are, if you're a kid murdering somebody, you just, you need help. You weren't necessarily knowing right from wrong. And we give kids the benefit of the doubt because they deserve it. And in this situation, you can tell there's a lot of kids who just were failed by parents, by guardians, by adults who just said, nope, I got a job, or there's a check coming in. Everything's okay. It's Nickelodeon. They're goofy. They're on TV. What can possibly go wrong? I mean, how much history has to repeat itself for people to understand that people weren't born good? I mean, what do you have to understand about that? People are not born good. If you leave it up to people, they're going to choose evil, because the world that we're born in, that's just how it is. If you don't instill good, and if you don't be that role model that they look up to, if you don't protect them, sad. Remember, I said Drake Bell's girlfriend's mom knew right away something's not right about this relationship with this kid and this predator. Look, the predator ended up he had been in jail for 6 years before. He had went to jail for this for 18 months. He had somehow got over 40 letters supporting him from a lot of popular people, including, I guess, a lot of popular people, family, friends, whatever. But when it comes to Dan, the main, I guess, guy behind all, he wasn't necessarily he didn't go to jail, or he wasn't convicted of anything, but Dan was the main guy that they were kind of talking about, who started this environment, basically. It's clearly, to me, he knew he was weird. I mean, come on now. You know when you're weird or not. You know when you do weird things and everybody doesn't react the way you react. You know, over years of you changing and how you become this power freak and all this. You know who you are. All right, let's not act like Dan doesn't know who he is. He knows who he is. But what he did was, and nobody said he was stupid, he he definitely kept some people around him, some males around him that he also knew were questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if he knew their history, but let's say he didn't know their history. He should have. And he knew that they wouldn't say anything. And it seems to me that he kept a bunch of people around him when it comes to adults that weren't big talkers. They were follow the leader type people. And he did this for as long as he could because he wasn't smart enough to know or aware enough to know that shit never lasts. It's always going to go down. And I think I think a lot of times God kind of put this in our lives to where these people, he kind of lets them be overly prideful, overly, bold to do all the things that Dan did when it came to the scenes he allowed and the scripting he wrote. He lets all that be out there just to see. I want to know if these people going to actually, I want to know how long are my people, this is what God is saying, how long are my people going to allow this to go before they catch it? I'm putting this out there. I'm putting it out there that the devil is here. I'm putting it out there that this is a devilish man. Look at what he's doing. Look at the scenes that he's creating. But he's giving popularity. I'm also showing that he gives popularity. This is what the devil does. Remember, the devil dresses up really nice, right? It's hard to tell sometimes. And I'm just going to see how long is it going to take. And it took a long goddamn time. And I don't even think anybody even really went to jail for a significant amount of time. What did you really learn? They changed a few rules. But even today, we still find billionaires committing suicide because they got caught. It's the devil, right? What does the devil care if somebody commits suicide? He gets another customer, right? I think we just got to wake up.